Welcome to Schools Division Annual Review of Expectations. Section 4. During our time together, we will explore the expectations of teaching and learning for HCDE Schools Division. Some of the information may be new to you, or some may just spark new ideas. Others will be just well rooted reminders that can use another thought or another look. As we get started, please ensure you have the following materials for the course: a notebook and writing utensils of your choice, or a digital way of capturing your notes. Secondly, we encourage you to be in a comfortable, quiet learning space. You will be asked to process your thoughts and to capture some of your learning. Let's review our learning targets for Section 4. By the end of this section, you, the learner, will be able to 1. Review and create positive expectations, draft classroom routines, procedures, and overall structure. Learning Target 2. Understand the TEKS and ELPs, review curriculum and instruction components, understand progress monitoring, curriculum maps, and understand the new lesson plan format. Learning Target 3. Identify student engagement and instructional supports for student achievement, as well as gain an understanding on how teacher growth is measured.
We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class. Because I am the best teacher and you are the best students, they put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. Years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
I love beginning my year listening to Rita Pearson. Why every student deserves a champion. Her words remind me to dig a little deeper and to give myself grace for the learning and for the trials and my failures that may happen this year. But before you put up a bulletin board, write out student name tags, or create a wonderfully themed classroom environment, begin your school year by setting positive expectations. According to authors Harry and Rosemary Wong, an expectation is what you expect or believe will or will not happen. The expectations you have for your students significantly influence what they are capable of achieving in class and in life. Again, I encourage you to set expectations for yourself first and for your students second. There are two types of expectations: positive or high expectations, negative or low expectations. Examples of negative expectations are: you don't understand the culture where I teach. What's wrong with these kids? They just don't want to learn. They can't read, they can't spell, they can't sit still, and they can't behave. These kids can't do anything. Or these professional development meetings are useless. I'm just here for a check. The odds are that what you expect will not happen. It won't happen because you've expended so much energy ensuring it doesn't happen. You will predispose yourself to failure for yourself and those around you, particularly your students. However, examples of positive expectations are: we have what we achieve comes from how we work together. I believe that every child can learn and will achieve to his or her fullest potential. Another one is: I'm always learning, and that's why I enjoy going to workshops, accessing the internet, and working collaboratively in professional learning communities. The odds are that what you expect and want to happen will happen because, again, you've expended the right energy to make it happen. You will predispose yourself to success, and that success will follow those around you and particularly your students. Let's review some examples of positive expectations. Positive expectations are best when developed from a growth mindset. You may have heard some videos, podcasts, or even other professional development sessions that have explored a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Someone with a growth mindset views intelligence, abilities, and talents as learnable and capable of improvement. On the other hand, someone with a fixed mindset views those same traits as inherently stable and unchanging. The latter is highly detrimental to students. Support students by helping them see their capabilities and what being good scholars can look like in your classroom. Clearly define what you want students to do by planning, teaching, and practicing expected behaviors. Limit your positive expectations to 3 to 5 statements. But again, make sure that the expectations are observable, measurable, positive, and understandable. Lastly, you want to explicitly teach those positive expectations and positive behaviors. In the Harry Wong and Rosemary book, First Day of School, there's an example of a positive expectation that you can use or even recite with your students daily or weekly. And here it is. I believe in you. No matter what you've done, I believe in you. No matter what's happened to you, I believe in you. No matter what people say, I believe in you. No matter if you're rich or poor, I believe in you. No matter your age or size, I believe in you. No matter where you live, I believe in you. No matter your position or lack of one, I believe in you. No matter, no matter, no matter, I believe in you. If you recite this to your students daily or even weekly, it begins to change how they see themselves. We'll take some time in the next slide and try for ourselves. Let's reflect and practice. In your notebooks or on your device, take this time to journal. I encourage you to write down about 2 to 3 positive expectations. Remember to set your positive expectations for yourself first. How do you want to feel? What type of teacher do you want to be? Find words, quotes, songs, and different affirmations that will help you set that positive expectation for yourself. Next, move on to your students. It's okay that you don't know all of them right now, but in this moment, switch your mind to a growth mindset and think through how you want your students to feel about themselves academically, about their own social emotional well-being. Some of our students are coming from very hard and difficult places. Now is the time to create a classroom environment that will allow them to be learners and scholars. When you're ready, click the video and start your reflection. Classroom management, structure, and routines. I want you to take a few moments and consider the fact that for many of our students, classrooms have not been a safe space for them. Rarely have they seen academic or social achievement in the classrooms that they're coming from. Now is the time and opportunity to change the narrative of how a classroom feels and looks for the students that grace our door. Classroom management or structure refers to what teachers do to organize students, the space, time, and materials so that learning can take place. Classroom management is not discipline. A well managed classroom has a set of procedures and routines that structure the classroom so that the teacher can foster student involvement and cooperation, as well as establish a productive working environment. Many times we use classroom management in a negative way, but classroom management is actually how things run and go. As the last slide stated, classroom management is simply the organization of students, space, time, and materials. So again, learning can take place. Now, I'm asking you to put on your hard hat and let's build and create structures and procedures. As you think about managing your classroom, here are some areas that you can hone in on to build out or create procedures for. Consider the physical structure, the teacher desk, where any guest or a teaching assistant may be, and the student area. Think about your schedule, not just the master schedule or what happens daily, but what do you need for each student? Or if you're self contained, how will things run during each content time? Consider the work systems, the order in which things will be placed. Where will your students pick up their folders from, pencils from? Where are they going to place them? How does work get to from you to them? Or those physical activities that you might create for students. Centers, rotations. Lastly, visual structures. What are some of those things that you will provide for them? Anchor charts, details on where things go. Will you put pictures so they can match exactly where the pencils go? These are just some things to think about. Now it's your turn. Let's reflect and practice. In your notebooks or journal space, jot down those areas of construction from the previous slide. Take a few minutes, sit in your thoughts, and write down what comes to mind for each of those areas. How would you like the physical structure of the room to look, to feel? This might be time for you to sketch out where you want the teacher desk to be, student areas, guest or teaching assistant areas. Think about your schedule. And I know you may not know exactly what that looks like right now. However, what are some things in your day you want to have? How will transitions work in your classroom? Going from one subject to another, from one class period to another, entering the classroom or leaving the classroom. Now is a great time to think through those components. Consider the work systems. How do you want things to go? How will students receive material or return material? Where do you want things to be placed? As well as visual structures. What type of visuals do you want to embed in your classroom to better support student achievement? Remember, your students don't know what they don't know. So now was a great time to think about visual structures and how they can help students know exactly what you mean when you give them a direct instruction. When you're ready, click the video. Finally, here are some last points to ponder about classroom management. Consider this the 3 P's of classroom management. 1. Make sure you always have a plan. A well-managed classroom is a planned classroom. Leave nothing to chance. 2. Prepare. Preparation happens every day and should cover all areas of your classroom. You never know what might happen, but if you're planned and you prepare, a lot of things you can negate. Lastly, proximity. Keep what matters close. Plan and prepare your procedures and materials, as well as your classroom personnel, to be within reach. Even if you don't have a teaching assistant there with you, how will you get help when needed? Where do you need to stand and be? Are things within reach? Again, plan, prepare, proximity. On to learning target number 2. In this section, the learner will understand TEKS and ELPS, review curriculum and instruction components, understand progress monitoring, curriculum maps, and understand the new lesson plan format. Let's begin. What are TEKS? If you're not familiar with education, or if you're from another state, this may be a foreign word. However, the TEKS, better known as the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills Standards, or TEKS, are the state of Texas standards for what students should know and be able to do in each subject and at each grade level. The TEKS are assessed starting in 3rd grade and continuing into high school by the STAR exam or EOC or end of course exam. We will learn more about the mastery and rigor of the STAR, the TEKS, and the EOC later on in the year. We just learned what TEKS were. Now we'll dive into what ELPS are. The Texas English Language Proficiency Standards, better known as ELPS, are a set of federally required instructional standards designed to ensure that English learners, or ELs, are taught the academic English they need for school purposes. The ELPS are used in foundation and enrichment instruction for English learners in kinder to 12th grade. Who benefits from ELPS? All English learners. And how do we measure growth for ELs? Growth is measured by a test called TELPAS. It assesses students from kinder to 12th grade that have been noted as English language learners. The ELPS and the TELPAS measure 4 language domains and 4 proficiency levels. The 4 language domains are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. 4 proficiency levels are beginning, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. All ELs or Ls in grades kinder through 12th grade, including those whose parents declined bilingual or English as a second language program services, are assessed annually by TELPAS. Even students that receive special education services and who are English learners are also assessed, sometimes by a special test called TELPAS Alt. Again, we will learn much more about the ELPS and TELPAS throughout the school year.
What are the ELPS? If you are a teacher in Texas, you may have heard of them, but still wonder exactly what they are and who they're for. The ELPS are English Language Proficiency Standards. They are designed to help English language learners progress in English while also learning content material. The ELPS are a lot like the TEKS because they're both sets of curriculum standards. But while the TEKS specify content skills, the ELPS represent the linguistic skills students will need as they acquire English. The TEKS are content and grade level specific, while the ELPS are cross-curricular and span across grade levels, K to 12. Both the TEKS and the ELPS are required by the Texas Education Code as mandatory standards. The ELPS cover 5 areas: learning strategies, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. In each area, the ELPS are listed in order of increasing complexity. And that's the idea. As students acquire more English, the ELPS move up in complexity. The higher the letter in the alphabet, the more complex the English required. In speaking, for example, students at the beginning level may be just learning to practice producing sounds of newly acquired vocabulary. These students at the beginning level are just learning to pronounce new words. On the other hand, an advanced or advanced high student is engaging in more complex language skills and should be able to, for example, adapt spoken language appropriately for formal and informal purposes. As students move through the ELPS become increasingly complex. This increasing complexity is designed to meet students' needs as they develop increasingly complex social and academic English. Through focused, targeted, and systematic instruction with the English Language Proficiency Standards, students increase in proficiency from beginning to intermediate to advanced high in reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Are you ready to try bringing some ELPS into your classroom instruction to incorporate listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills? Here are some great ELPS that support any learner but are especially critical and required for English language learners. Do your students have opportunities to speak using grade-level content area vocabulary in context to internalize new English words and build academic language proficiency? If so, you're doing a great job helping students meet ELPS 3D under speaking. Using strategies like sentence stems, structured conversations, and talk moves will help you get well on your way to building academic vocabulary and incorporating the ELPS into your daily instruction. The The ALPS also cover skills necessary in reading, from reading basic sight words to analyzing complex texts. If a skill supports students in developing language and learning content, you can probably find it somewhere in the ALPS. So next time you're planning lessons, be sure to incorporate some ALPS to help your students develop the content skills and language development they need to be successful. The ALPS, they help.
Created using Powtoon.
Now that we've learned about TEKS and ELPS, the combination of both the TEKS plus the ELPS equals grade level curriculum. The TEKS are not a suggestion. Rather, they are the measure of knowledge and skill mastery for each content area and at each grade level. The what is taught and when it's taught can be found within grade level curriculum maps. You will have an opportunity to unpack the curriculum map for your grade level or grade levels in the next few weeks and throughout the school year with your teacher leader and planning teams. We've learned that the combination of TEKS and ELPS equal curriculum. Now we'll look at the science of education. Learning has nothing to do with what teachers cover. Rather, learning has to do with what students accomplish. Remember that learning has everything to do with what students accomplish. Teaching and learning are the heart of education. Schools and teachers exist for one reason only, and that is to help students learn and achieve. And teachers are responsible for what students learn. The combination of curriculum plus instruction plus assessment equal well-balanced learning. Let's dive a little deeper into our learning triangle. Every lesson must have these three components to optimize student learning. Curriculum. But more importantly, curriculum is the big overarching umbrella. Granularly, we'll look at learning objectives that are developed from the TEKS and the ELPS. Every lesson must begin with an objective or a target for what should be taught and what should be learned, plus instruction. In every lesson must have instruction that is made up of activities that are directly related to the objective. It makes no sense to have learning activities that deal nothing with what's supposed to be learned. For example, if your students are supposed to be learning about the Pythagorean theorem, it makes no sense to have them learning about the colors of the rainbow. The instruction and the activities must make sense and must directly correlate. Lastly, assessment. Every lesson must have a way to assess student understanding of the learning objective. The assessments don't have to be formal, and they can be very informal. However, the Power 3 curriculum, instruction, and assessment must be present at every lesson. Every lesson, every learning opportunity should have a clear focus, engaging instruction, and again, some type of assessment. We'll dive deeper into curriculum, parts of instruction, and assessments more in the school year. But make sure you jot these down because these are very powerful. Now that we've learned about our Power 3 curriculum, instruction, and assessment, we're going to dive into the workspace for the Power 3, which is called a lesson plan. The template that you see before you is the updated version of our lesson plan. Please note that lesson plans will be created, reviewed, and stored in our online PowerSchool product called Curriculum and Instruction. Take a minute and review each of the components of the lesson plan. A thorough lesson plan will incorporate an opening or engaging activity, sometimes called a hook. Content vocabulary will be present because some of the words will be over a student's reading level, and it would be important to teach vocabulary explicitly. Additionally, lesson plans should have an instructional component, meaning, is it an I do activity where the teacher leads the activity and the students follow? A we do activity where the teacher and the students complete the activities together? Or a you do where the teacher now releases the learning to the students directly? Practice activities and a closing activity should follow. And remember what we said in the last slide, that every lesson should have some type of assessment. Again, it could be very informal or formal. But assessment is a way to gauge if your students understood the learning objectives. Please note that lesson plans will be due on Thursdays at 4 p.m. of every week. Let's review explicit instruction versus progress monitoring. Explicit instruction is a series of instructional behaviors that increase the likelihood for student achievement. Think of it as improving student outcomes with elevating your practice. Instruction is explicit when teachers tell students what they need to do using direct explanations, along with sharing and modeling new knowledge. However, progress monitoring procedures guide teachers in collecting and analyzing data to make instructional decisions that support all students in meeting the grade level TEKS, as well as individualized students in meeting their IEP goals. Let's unpack progress monitoring a little bit more in depth. Let's unpack progress monitoring. Students that receive special education services are required to have annual IEP goals. These goals are not a substitute for the grading of assignments that's linked to grade level curriculum. IEP progress is determined by the student's progress on a specific goal, not grade level curriculum. When a student receives special education services, schools are required to report on that student's progress towards mastery of the IEP goals. However, this is separate and distinct requirement from assigning course grades, as IEP goals are not the same as course content. And if students fail to maintain progress or fail to make progress toward an IEP goal for 2 consecutive reporting periods, best practice states that the ARD committee should consider the need to meet and evaluate current supports and services that are not currently resulting in progress. So, in other words, if a student does not seem to be making gains for 2 consecutive reporting periods, at the first reporting period, the campus should collaborate with the general education teacher and/or special education teachers, campus administrator, transitional specialists if applicable, and any other pertinent personnel to figure out why the student is not making progress. If that same student then fails the second consecutive reporting period, the school should ask for an ARD meeting and for the ARD committee to come back and to reassess the student's mastery and goals and what is impeding their progress. There are a few elements of explicit instruction. Again, explicit instruction is different than progress monitoring. Explicit instruction covers the breadth of the curriculum, and there are a few strategies to assist with explicit instruction. There are 4 highlighted here. Focus instruction on critical content. Sequence skills logically. Break down complex skills and strategies into smaller instructional units. Design, organize, and focus lessons. Scan the QR code for more information on explicit instruction.
She will help row the boat.
For students with disabilities, the right accommodations and modifications can be as important to school success as appropriate IEP goals. These educational supports are similar, but they are not the same. Accommodations change how a student accesses information, participates in school activities, or demonstrates their learning. They do not change the curriculum. Modifications, however, change what is being taught or what a student is expected to learn and demonstrate.
I only need you to do the circled problems for me.
Accommodations can be made by adjusting the amount of work a student must complete, allowing extra time,
Just go ahead and turn your paper in. Okay, you can go ahead and keep working. You've got about 5 more minutes.
adapting assignments,
Alex, I have your shapes here. Good.
providing extra assistance, or changing the physical setting.
Let's do one more page today.
There is no one set list. Because each child is unique, the IEP team must identify specific strategies to help your child succeed. For example, presenting a few math problems at a time may help a student who is easily overwhelmed. Another student might benefit from short breaks, or being allowed to finish an assignment at home. A student who has difficulty writing may be allowed the use of a computer, while students with a print disability may benefit from having tests read aloud.
They went downtown.
A child can be given an appropriate role when working in small groups,
Where am I?
or be allowed to participate in an activity in a different way.
Beware of what? Excuse me.
Being seated near the teacher helps some students stay focused,
So we'll go ahead and discuss these in a minute.
and assistive technology can support a wide range of needs.
And if you need me, you can raise your hand and I'll come and help you. All right?
In addition to accommodations, it is sometimes necessary to modify the curriculum. For example, when the class is learning how to tell time, one child might be expected to identify only the hours. While the class is working on vocabulary and spelling, another child may work from a shorter list, or focus exclusively on the meaning of key words.
Insects with 8 legs.
As we learned in the previous slide, accommodations and modifications are very powerful tools that support students serviced under special education. Just as a reminder, an accommodation changes the how a student accesses instruction, and a modification changes the what a student is expected to learn. Let's use the following 5th grade TEK as an example of how we could accommodate or modify for a student. The TEK reads that the student is expected to add and subtract positive rational numbers fluently. It's really important that we understand what the student is expected to learn or master. Again, in TEK 5.3K, the student is expected to add and subtract positive rational numbers. Take a moment and read the question. Now, let's read it together. The population of Gray County is 35,553 less than the population of Anderson County. What is the combined population of these 4 counties? Take a moment and try and work through the operation of this question. By now, you've probably figured out that you have to first subtract, then you'll need to add. This is considered a 2-step problem. If we were going to accommodate or provide accommodations for a student, here are some things that we could do. Reduce the answer options. Provide our student with more time to be able to work through the problem. In 5th grade, most of our students are not allowed to use a calculator. So maybe allowing our student to use a calculator could be a powerful accommodation. The use of a highlighter to be able to understand exactly what is being asked, or even to read the question out loud. As you've noted, none of the accommodations we've provided have changed what the student is expected to do. They still need to be able to perform both operations, adding and subtracting, in order to solve the problem. Now let's look at a modification. If we had to modify for a student service under special education, we could require the student to perform only the addition component of the problem. Again, we could even fill in this chart and give the student very special instructions to only add up all of the numbers. By doing that, we have now changed the expectation. That student is not going to be required to add and subtract or to find out the operations. We're giving it to them. Lastly, another modification is that we can even change the wording of the question or simplify the numbers to make it easier or more palatable for our student. I hope this helps you understand how an accommodation and a modification can work with a real life example. Lastly, let's review grades and grading procedures. Please note that this information was taken directly from our standard operating procedures. All teachers are required to use Power Teacher Pro to record student grades. Student work should reflect the teaching and learning process. Assignments must be entered in Power Teacher Pro to indicate what is being graded. Use a naming convention when you enter grades into Power Teacher Pro. Include the name of the assignment and the TEKS code or standard that assignment reflects. For instance, if you're teaching 8th grade math and your standard is 8.8C, include that as a part of your naming convention. Students who are absent must be given an opportunity to make up work. When the student makes up the work, record the grade. At least 2 grades per content must be recorded in the gradebook each week. This year, our parents will have an opportunity to enroll electronically to receive updates on grades and attendance for each of their students. A part of that enrollment will include the gradebook. Please ensure that you keep your gradebook up to date so that parents and students are well aware of where they stand weekly and across each of the grading periods. Now we will review the last learning target. In this section, the learner will identify student engagement and instructional supports, as well as how teacher growth is measured. Let's dive in. Student engagement. In education, student engagement refers to the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught. which extends to the level of motivation they will have to learn and progress in their education. Philip Schlette's formula for level of engagement includes attention plus commitment. He's coined 5 levels of engagement. Let's review them. The first one is authentic engagement. That's when high attention plus high commitment are seen. The next is strategic compliance. We see high attention but low commitment. The third is ritual compliance. With ritual compliance, there's low attention and low commitment. Fourth is retreatism. No attention is seen and very low commitment. And the fifth is rebellion. Diverted attention and no commitment. We definitely don't want students at the rebellion stage of engagement. No learning can take place for that student, and furthermore, no to little learning will take place for their peers if a student is engaging in rebellion. There are some instructional strategies that we can use, as well as de-escalation and other strategies to help ensure students are engaged and committed. This video perfectly illustrates the levels of engagement and how they play out in a student's world. Take a minute and think about how you've seen each of the levels of engagement play out in students that you've had over the past years, or even in yourself as a student. When was the last time you were authentically engaged in learning? Remember, high attention as well as high commitment. Also, consider a time where you had diverted attention and no commitment. You may have been in rebellion, where you, under no circumstances, were going to do that work. Our students experience the same thing, sometimes all of the levels of engagement within a single day or even a single content. It's important to pay close attention to your students and to understand their strengths and weaknesses. A lot of that will help you make better decisions when pulling or embedding instructional strategies into your lessons. For more information on instructional strategies, scan the QR codes. We've talked a great deal about students, student learning, and achievement. But the growth of each professional is also equally as important. So you might be wondering, how will my professional growth be measured? Let's dive in. Professional growth is measured by the Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System, better known as T-TESS. T-TESS is a multi-dimensional observational tool that helps teachers improve their practices and professional needs. T-TESS is designed to provide teachers with timely and actionable feedback that can help them make informed decisions about professional development. Teachers should ideally receive formal and informal observations throughout the school year. Many of the components that we discussed during this section are areas of measurement for T-TESS. You are encouraged to continuously seek growth and learning opportunities within and outside of the school's division. Remember, feedback is a gift. The following 2 slides are just a compilation of online resources and references that were used in creating Section 4. I thank you for being an active and willing learner. Now it's time for a quiz. Remember, you'll have to pass with a 70 or above to move to the next section. Thank you again, and see you soon.